Legio Ignatum is one of the oldest Titan legions. In fact, it's one of the founding 3 Titan legions created as a weapon of Mars in conquering its surface of civil wars while defending its space from encroaching Xenos invasions. The legion took its first steps when Mars was alone and in sole possession of the Mars pattern standard template constructs for god engines. Ignatum would live prior to the adoption of Titans on many worlds of the would-be Imperium of Man. The Legion's colors are a vibrant red with a secondary color of amber yellow. Their battle plate commonly has patterns of straight and waved black lines. A more elaborate pattern of historical representation is the pattern of the hornet hive combs, reminiscent of the predators the Legion is named after. As a whole, their panels were trimmed with various colors depending on station and time period observed over the Legion's history. Though the exact reason for this difference is unknown, it's speculated a silver trim was used for those battle groups that were originally based on Mars. Gold was reserved for the defenders of Terra itself and allies of the Custodes, and black was commonly cited on those that survived the schism of Mars and took up new oaths of revenge for the treachery that occurred. Legio Ignatum is also known as the Fire Wasps, a secondary name given for their reputation of fiercely defending their charges and oaths when under threat. Like the ancient hornets of Terra defending their hives, Ignatum would erupt from their hangars in defense of their manufactura and allies. Ignatum's insignia is that of this ancient hornet, or wasp. This insect is on a background of a triangle, marking the Legion's status as one of the original 3, also known as the Pharam Triad Margulis. The Triad Pharam Margulis is made up of 3 founding Titan Legios: Legio Mortis, Legio Tempestus, and Legio Ignatum. Though it's unknown which of these 3 Titan legions came first, it's assumed they all built up their numbers at equal production to roughly the same strength, concluding in all 3 of them being graded as a Primus grade Titan Legio. Though the original Titan Legion is unknown, what is undisputed, however, is that these are the first Titan Legios that the Imperium of Man became aware of and recognized. Legio Ignatum's home forge is on the red sands of the ancient Mars. Predating the Age of Strife and the Martian Mechanicum itself, the red planet is located within the Sol system, a system that is the foundation of the Segmentum Solar. The red planet was originally a barren wasteland of blowing sands, unprotected from the nearby sun of the Sol system. In the Age of Strife, Mars was a war zone besieged by several cults and early Mechanicum factions fighting to dominate the planet's surface. The escalating warfare caused a devastating development of weaponry and the creation of the first Titans, later named the Triad Pharam Margulis, in honor of their status. Ignatum would help other factions and Titan legions with the defense of Mars against Xenos incursions and the predators native to the Red Sands themselves. Through the Age of Darkness and Long Night, in the absence of external threats, the factions and legions of Mars would fight amongst themselves to lay claim to more territory. It is in this mechanical civil war that the Legion would gain its name and make its mark as a founding God Engine Legio. True to the name Fire Wasps, Ignatum would erupt from their hangars like angry hornets when threatened, and it was only in defense of their home forges that a fiery anger could be seen among their Princeps. The Legion would guard Mars through honorable resolve and titanic weaponry. This reputation as fierce defenders would lead many other factions to seek out the Fire Wasp's protection, and cause new oaths and alliances between warring factions to be formed. This was all in opposition to other Titan Legios and cults gathering strength and gaining ground across the Red Planet. Ignatum often came to the aid of oath-sworn forges overrun by threats of varying origins. Their reputation as honorable protectors would lead to many strong alliances of hive cities and forges. This reputation would also lead to a devout opposition of Ignatum. Friction between the Titan legions of Mars was most apparent between Legios Mortis and Ignatum. The war-hungry conquerors of Mortis would view the defensive nature of Ignatum as a weakness, and test the Legio frequently before unification of the Red Planet. It's said that the actions of Ignatum alone are what stopped Mortis from conquering the full surface of Mars. As advanced as other Titan Legios of Mars were, the Firewasps utilized a unique weapon system to their Titans alone. The engines of Ignatum would employ enhanced gravatic sensor arrays, limiting an opponent's ability to gain a benefit from cover or being obscured. The Firewasps were accurate at pinpoint precision, even on hidden foes. Ultimately, Mars would unite under the cult Mechanicus and form the Mechanicum of Mars. The Red Planet's surface would turn from barren sands to overwhelming industry and great forges. The space surrounding the planet itself would turn into grand shipyards orbiting the planet's circumference, bearing many orbital weapons and platforms for the planet's defense. Though Mars united under a single banner in the interest of expansion, the Titan legions home to Mars would retain their character. Ignatum would rarely leave the segmentum solar, and while one engine remained standing, no harm would come to anything under Firewasp protection. To date, no record exists of a Firewasp retreat. The battle groups of Ignatum would stubbornly hold their ground in defense of an oath to the last if necessary. This attribute would prove to be a gift and a curse in the Legion's future history. Through the Age of Strife, Terra would undergo a similar history to Mars, with large rival factions fighting for control of the surface. While Mars would unify as a coalition under the cult Mechanicum, Terra would unify under the Imperium of Mankind and the vision of the Emperor who united it. One of the earliest actions of the Emperor after the unification of Terra was to reconnect Holy Terra with the Great Forge of Mars. This new alliance would be forged under an agreement known as the Treaty of Olympus. Under this treaty, Mars would retain a large portion of its independence, but operate for the most part under the banner of the Imperium. This in the future would be seen as one of the few times the Imperium formed an equal partnership rather than the outright conquest of another faction. Under the Treaty of Olympus, Mars would lend many valuable resources to the Imperium's Great Crusade. The triad Pharam Margulis would be given new roles befitting their mighty status and nature as engines of war. Legio Mortis would become all-out annihilators, reserved for only the most devastating war zones and thrown against the most stubborn planetary systems, resisting the Imperium's expansion. Legio Tempestus would be attached to many of the original Explorator fleets. This legion would become the Crusaders of uncharted space. Legio Ignatum, given its reputation, would become wardens for the holdings of Mars and the Imperium alike. They would be the sentinels of defense for strategically important worlds and those vital to Mars. In essence, the Legion would become the ultimate defenders of the Collegia Titanica. During the Great Crusade, the Firewasps would fend off multiple Xenos incursions across many planetary systems. Most notably, the Orc War on Utrecht, a historic battle, part of the War of the Beast, and one of the final battles of the Olympus campaign. In this epic siege, several Ignatum engines would hold the line against over 100 ramshackle Orc Gargants. With no hope of victory, the Firewasps, true to their name, would hold the line of battle for 4 days against the Orc menace. As the last of the Loyalist ground crews were evacuated from Utrecht, a famous holopic was captured of the last standing Ignatum warlord, Perditus Existimamer, being clawed to the ground, guns blazing, in stubborn defense of the evacuation. This refusal to retreat and evacuate their sundered titans would immortalize the 12 Ignatum Princeps forever and bring great honor to the Legion's name. When the Legion strode forth in the final battle of the Olympus campaign, it was to the war horns and cheers of all allied forces present. This would be in salute of the vengeance the Legio was about to enact on the Orcs for the War of Utrecht. The ultimate honor the Legion would gain was won through battle reputation and campaign accommodation. Legio Ignatum alone would be granted the honor of guarding the Eternity Gate, a closely guarded secret of the Emperor, and the Emperor's imperial palace itself on Terra. These pivotal honors would be tested in days to come and millennia thereafter. The opening days of the Horus Heresy would take a heavy toll on Legio Ignatum. As perilous defenders of Mars and the Imperium, they would become a priority target for the Fabricator General of Mars, Kelbor Hall. In his opening acts of betrayal under the banner of traitor Primarch Horus Lupercal, the beginnings of the Dark Mechanicum would set Legios Mortis and Tempestus against the noble Ignatum, in what would become known as the Schism of Mars. Ignatum would be hunted across the surface of Mars by their brothers of the Triad. A specific event, known as the Death of Innocence, the opening act of the Schism, would touch many Legios based on the Red Planet, but hit Ignatum the deepest. The last of Ignatum's Titans on Mars, including its Grand Master, would fall in defense of Ignatum's home forges and oaths. The Death of Innocence and the Schism of Mars would leave only limited battle groups of Ignatum stationed on distant worlds surviving. Though broken and now leaderless, Ignatum would remain undefeated, and the surviving Princeps would have decisions to make. The survivors of Ignatum would create new command structures, and either choose to defend their current post or strike out in vengeance. All traitors across the heresy would feel fear in the presence of Legio Ignatum for their betrayal. In particular, uncaged hatred was reserved for Legios Mortis and Tempestus. It was only in these battles, with these parties present, that Ignatum would let their full fury come to the surface recklessly. Regardless of direction for each battle group, the last of the Fire Wasps would either perish in stubborn defense or in vengeful battle. The extinction of Ignatum was not absolute, despite the events of betrayal. There still remained a strong battle group in the heart of the Imperium on Terra itself. This battle group would play a significant role in the siege of Terra, and portions of the battle group would survive the heresy well into the future of the Imperium and the scouring to come. To this day, 2 Legio Ignatum warhounds still guard the Eternity Gate, deep within the Imperial Palace, and the remainder the Emperor himself upon the Golden Throne. Ignatum alone would be the only Titan Legion permitted to step foot on Terra, as its guardians well into the 41st millennia. The Princeps of Legio Ignatum were known as honorable allies and unflinching defenders of any oath they undertook. The Titan crews themselves viewed the only defeat was one that dishonored their oaths regardless of any odds they face. These Titan crews were known for being stubborn and holding their ground regardless of cost, even if it meant they fell in the process. They were quick to come to the defense of any ally they were within range of aiding. Firewasp Princeps Seniorus in particular favored heavy guns and larger Titan variants. Legio battle groups would commonly form phalanxes of overlapping fire corridors in an effort to punish any overeager foe. The Legion itself was not without its own culture and superstitions, for all Princeps Seniorus held the belief that battle was decided by the first shot fired. If the shot hit its target, the day was already won in the minds of the Titan crews. If the shot was missed, the battle group would be in for a hard-fought struggle and possible annihilation. In light of this Legio superstition, only the most accomplished marksmen within battle groups and maniples were permitted to take the first shot on a battlefield. Ultimately, the Legio Princeps of the Fire Wasps would live under the motto, "I will either find a way or I shall make one." It should come as no surprise as a member of the triad Pharam Margulis that prior to the Horus Heresy, Ignatum was classed as a Primus grade Titan Legion. The designation of Primus is a slight understatement in this case, as Ignatum had considerably more god engines than other Primus grade Legios outside of the triad. At the height of the Great Crusade, Legio Ignatum contained around 200 god engines of Mars pattern STC. The Legion's strength varied across many Titan classes, however a majority of the Legio's Titans were in heavier class chassis, with a notable lack of Scout Titans. The Legion also possessed a relatively large number of rare and siege class god engines like the Imperator Titan and the fabled for its time War Master Siege Titan. As a whole, the Legion preferred heavy weapons and heavy Titans as opposed to balanced maniple configurations of class and Titanic weaponry. The following is an approximate breakdown of the Legio's strength prior to the Horus Heresy's conclusion. Legio Ignatum has a long and prestigious combat record, dating back well before the Imperium and into the 41st millennia. The following are some noteworthy campaigns and events the Firewasps took part in. Well, that was a look at yet another Loyalist Titan Legio's lore for Adeptus Titanicus. It was nice to dive into a legion so long-lived and prestigious as the Firewasps, and Legio Ignatum's also a rare example of a Titan Legion that survived the heresy into the current setting. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you're looking for more Adeptus Titanicus content, then check out the channel. Or if you want to stay up to date with uploads and maybe when your Titan Legion drops, then subscribe to the channel. That's it for this one. Thank you to everyone for the continued support and interest. Take it easy.